Hi everyone, welcome back to yet another session of Nakshebazi. ठीक है, नाम अच्छा है ना? तो आओ शुरू करते हैं इसको और समझने की कोशिश करते हैं. The topic which I have in mind for you people. You remember what we have discussed till now. I'm trying to go chronologically here. Initially we discussed Harappan trade, then we spoke of Aryan migration, right? And then in the last lecture or last video, I spoke about the entire trade routes that were existing, isn't it? Uttar Path, Dakshin Path, and Silk Route as well. Today, I intend to take a step ahead. And I intend to talk about one very important source book for us. It is written by an anonymous person. We really do not know who has written it, except that he was a Greek and that he was living somewhere in Egypt, which was then being ruled by a Roman, by the Romans. And he was not a very well educated person because he's confusing a lot of times between Greek and Latin terms. So these are the only few things, shady ideas which we have about the author. But in spite of all those limitations, this fellow writes a masterpiece. It is written somewhere around 50 CE. That's the point which we are being told here, right? 50 CE, first century CE. He is aware about Hippalus. Hippalus is the fellow who discovered the monsoon winds for the Europeans. He was the first European to get a sense of what was happening here, right? Merchants in Indian Ocean, they knew about monsoons, of course, much before. But the Europeans, the first European was Hippalus. Okay, so now this guy, this guy who's writing this Periplus of the Erythraen Sea. What is this Erythraean Sea? And what is a periplus? That is with what I would like to start off, right? Apparently, a lot of direct Indo-Roman trade was going on. A lot of Indo-Roman direct trade was going on. And from Mediterranean via Egypt, right? There were a couple of routes, one going to Bari Gazza, which is modern day Bharuch, mouth of Narmada River, and another route going to Muziris. So these two were very important towns. UPSC has been asking us, mentioning about these terms a lot. They're asking in the, they have not directly asked you a question yet on Periplus, right? But they have asked you around it several times. Okay, so keeping all that in mind, let's try and understand what is going on. I will keep coming back to this map again and again. This is the map we are going to focus upon, right? Remember, Nakshebazi is all about maps and understanding those, maps clearly. ठीक है? तो आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं बात को. A periplus. There were several periplus written in the ancient times. During the Greco-Roman times, several periplus was written. Right? What is a periplus? A periplus is primarily a sailor's logbook, where he's mentioning when he's leaving, in what month he's leaving, when he's arriving at the port, those kinds of details, the wind speed, the harbors, what kind of harbors are present, are they safe, are they not? These kind of details. He's talking about giving you a sense of geography as well, mentioning places, islands. And he's also talking about as a traveler handbook, he's giving us a lot of information in the sense that what kind of people live here. Right? What kind of people do live here? And similarly, what do they trade in? What is being imported? What is being exported? So he gives us detailed information, which is very fascinating. What is Erythraean Sea? Just to go back to the map, this entire region, right from, this entire region, they are calling it as Erythraean Sea. In the olden times, it was known as the Erythraean Sea. I don't know why this name. I have no idea. अभी तक मेरे दिमाग में I have gotten this question, why the name Erythraean? And I also know, I'm sure a lot of you would also be aware that Erythrae is a very small country somewhere here in Africa. So maybe it has got something to do with that. I'm not too sure though. This is the Erythraean Sea. Okay. So this is a Periplus of Erythraen Sea. He will come to a port and he will talk about the length, the condition of the routes, the key ports, where you should anchor. Locals, how are they? Are they helpful or they are not? The goods which are being traded. Right? His book, it's a very voluminous book. It's a very voluminous book. It can be divided for our purpose into 3 categories. 3 categories. What are they? This one is not very important for us because here he speaks about the route, the trade which is happening down here. The eastern coast of Africa, that is what he's focusing upon in the first category. So we will not be talking about it. Rather, for us, the important ones are category 2 and category 3. They are covering the east-west axis rather than north-south. Okay? So from Egypt to west coast of India, that's the second category. This is where he's talking about, this is the second section of the book. So it talks about how these Roman ships move with what kind of goods, and then they reach to all those blue dots which have been shown on the western coast. Then comes the third category. This is where he starts talking about running up the east coast. And can you believe this? This guy actually went all the way to the mouth of river Ganga. And he's also giving you some hearsay stories about China and Myanmar and that region. Right? So it is a phenomenal work. It's a phenomenal work. Let's get into some of the details, please. This is, yahan se bacche apne kaam ki cheez shuru ho rahi hai. Right? This is where this is the start of the subcontinent, right? And he's clearly saying that when we enter this, land of Sindhus, the first port that we encounter is that of Bari Gazza, which is being ruled by the Scythians with their capital at Minagara. Right? Similarly, he goes on and he says, Saurashtra ko, he's calling it as Sirastrine. And he will give you all the information. For example, he will tell you that from Gujarat coast, a lot of precious stones, such as agate, carnelian, and cloth, used to get exported. And in return, what did they get? Vessels of glass, vessels of gold, vessels of silver. Do you see trading surplus happening? Right? Then, there are some more important, port towns which he mentions. For example, Kalin or Kalyan, right? Then the next important one for us will be these three. These three will be important for us. Tindus, Musurus, and Nilsenda. The upper two under the Chera rule, and last one, Nilsenda, under Pandyan rule. Okay? From here, he turns around and he speaks of Kolchi. And you know what is the most interesting aspect, bachche? Kisi source ko, any source, if you use it in isolation, it is of no use. They should always be, looked at holistically with other sources. And that is where, when you juxtapose the information, the rich information coming from Periplus, and you juxtapose it with the Sangam literature, you get some very wonderful idea about the entire Sangam age. Then you can correlate. Okay, that Chera capital was this. Okay, he's talking about that city here. And then, a lot of excavations can take place accordingly. Right? Then after that, he's also talking about Argar, which is primarily Urayur of Sangam literature. Kamara, Poduka. You will be fascinated to know this, that Poduka has been identified as Arika Medu. A lot of Roman vessels, wine jars, etc. Right? They have been discovered here. Amphorae, as they are called as. And then he also speaks of Sopatma. Then he starts, mentioning about his journey forward. He talks of certain regions now. Massalia and Docerine. He gives us information, very valuable information about what was the kind of people there. Right? I will come to it. First, let's see how he's flowing through, right? Then he reaches mouth of Ganga. And that is where his journey stops. But he carries on talking about the land of Chryas, where the tortoise shells were the best. And then he speaks of the land of This. He says, you cannot go to This. It's very, very, the mountains, snow peaks, you cannot cross it. The land is known as This, and there is a very massive town there which is called as Thine. The name of the town is Thine. And he said that a lot of raw silk comes from Thine by foot all the way here to here. Can you believe it? And from here, these Roman ships come in. This entire raw silk gets loaded and taken back, along with a lot of goods coming from India as well. Such as, you ask, I will give you. Such as spices, pepper, specifically. Right? Ivory, a lot of medicinal plants. A lot of medicinal plants as well. Right? So this is in a nutshell what he's trying to tell us. Okay? Let's have a quick run through and find out. So let's have a quick run through with the rest of the presentation here. It will have certain data. मैंने आपको पूरी बात बता दी है. right? Let's quickly run through a few more slides. So certain important Indo-Roman ports on the west and the east coast. The first one, as I told you, is Barbary. Barbary, come. It imported thin clothing, linen imported, मतलब इसके पास आता था ये सामान. Topaz is your Pukhraj. Coral, Storax is some kind of a plant, I believe, some kind of a plant, right? Frankincense, bole to lohban, it used to come in huge quantity from Oman, right? One of the massive trading item in the olden days, had a very important religious use. This is where Mahayana is flourishing, emerging now. Buddha is being deified. बुद्धा इज बीइंग डेइफाइड. उनकी पूजा करते हैं. कैसे? लोहबान जलाते हैं, सिल्क की चद्दरें पहनाते हैं. डू यू सी हाउ इकोनॉमी एंड रिलीजन आर लिंक्ड? इट्स ब्यूटिफुल टू से द लीस्ट. एंड इमेजिन, देखो, सोचो बच्चे, उसी में आई विल गिव यू एन एडिशनल पॉइंट. दैट वाज नॉट द आइडिया इंटेंट हियर, बट चलो ठीक है, दैट्स द गुड पार्ट अबाउट trying to pick up such themes. That's the good part. देखो, यहां पर a lot of Western Ghats mountains exist, and this is where you will notice a lot of Buddhist viharas and chaityas are present. These wagons, caravans carrying goods from all the way to Ganga will come here. And they will cross these Western Ghats through these passes, and on these passes will be conveniently located a Buddhist monastery, which will give them shelter. They will be told about Buddha's life. A lot of them would accept the faith. They would donate as well, which would be used to create wonderful sculptures and paintings across places such as, Ajanta, for one. These earliest caves, they are also somewhere also, this entire beautiful, I don't know what is, what to call it. Words fail me. Words seriously fail me, man. When you start appreciating, when you start looking at such connections, words fail you, right? And they got, देखो ये सब इनको मिलता था, silver, gold, wine, they got exported. See, these are, primarily your medicinal plants I was talking about. Lycium, spikenard, बोले तो जटामासी, गुग्गल, turquoise, lapis lazuli, indigo. All such things were exported from Barbaricum. This is Bari Gazza, right? Bari Gazza right here. It was the kingdom of Aryaka, and the ruler was Nambinus, who has been identified as the very famous Nahapana, right? The Western Shak ruler, right? He also issued a lot of coinage. Nahapana was the king, and the river Narmada has been mentioned as Nammadas. Okay? It's a very fertile region apparently. A lot of things are grown here. Men are of great stature and black in color. The sailing was very tough here at the Bari Gazza port, and there would always be native fishermen who would escort and help them come and park their ships safely, boats safely. Then inland from Bari Gazza, he speaks of city Ozine, which has been identified as Ujjain. And this is the capital of Nambinus. A lot of trading goods come from Ozine to Bari Gazza. This is what he's telling us. Okay. The king himself, imports a lot of things for his personal usage. Jaise costly vessels of silver, singing boys, beautiful maidens for the harem, wines. So the luxury, the rich and mighty, they lived a very luxurious life, courtesy this trade. It is this trade which will almost transform far south as well. The exports, I said almost. Why? Think about it. So beyond Bari Gazza is Dakshina Badesh, basically, or Dakshin Path he's talking about. He's saying there are two important market towns as well. Two important market towns as well. One he's calling as Pathan, and the other one he's calling as Tagara. Pathan and Tagara. These were some of the other, I have just mentioned them in one easy order. Starting from the top: Supara, Kalyana, Semila, Mandagora, Palapatma, Meligara, Byzantium, Togaram, Orenohas. There were some islands who were known for piracy as well. Right? This region, he's calling it as the far south region. He's calling it as Demirica or Limerick. These are the two names which he is using for the far south region. Right? Demirica and Limerick. Demerica and Limerick. Okay. Tindis is one important port, as I was telling you, and Muziris and Nelsinda as well. In fact, Muziris was known for exporting great quantities of fine pearls, ivory, and they got their spikenard. Can you believe it? Do you see the way roots are operating in such a complicated manner? Spikenard, which was a medicinal plant, it was acquired from Ganga region, Gangetic Valley. And then from there it was taken all the way to Muziris. And from there, these Roman ships would carry it forward. Very entrepreneurial, it seems, right? Buzzing with activity must have been. They also exported diamonds, fires, tortoise shells were exported. These tortoise shells, Indian merchants got them from Christ Island. Christ Island, yaad hai na, bhi padha tha. Burma ka region. So they would get tortoise shells from here. Right? And they would also get it from the coastal region of Demirica or Limerick. From Komari, right? This is Cape Komari, he's saying. Notice karo bacche. He's saying the Sri Lanka region, he's calling it as Pale Simindu. And he's saying that there was another name as well, Tabropano. I'm sorry for shooting so many names at you. Not required. The ancient name of Sanskrit of Sri Lanka, which you can keep in your head, is Tamraparni. So this is the corruption of that. That's all. Right? So from Cape Komari, this is your, Cape Comorin, I believe. From there, he turns around and now he starts talking about the eastern coast. Right? He talks of Kolchi, which is known for pearl fisheries, right? Which belong to the Pandyan kingdom. Then he speaks of Argaru, which is your Chola capital, Urayur. There were a couple of other, ports as well. Most important for us, I believe, will be Poduka or Arika, Medu, as a lot of people argue, right? This is Massalia region. Do you see? This is Massalia region. This is Massalia region. This was known for lots of muslin. And the other region he's talking about is Dosarine, which yielded the ivory. Which yielded the ivory. Ivory यहाँ पर क्यों होती होगी? हाथी यहाँ बहुत होते हैं. And beyond this, he says that there are barbaric tribes and cannibals as well. Okay. Next, he reaches Ganga, as I was telling you. He says that at Ganga, gold coins called Caltus were present, right? And he speaks of Chryse and Thys and Thinai. He also informs us that every year on the border of the land of Thys, there is a kind of a annual hart where merchants come from that side and this side and they exchange goods as well. Right? These are pretty much all the important aspects of Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, which I believe you must keep in your head. The names could be exhaustive. I apologize for that. But I think we shouldn't be scared of the names. Rather, we should just simply ignore them. उनकी जगह अगर ABCD भी होता तो कोई खास फर्क नहीं पड़ता. अपने लिए काम के I think मुश्किल से 6 या 7 नाम रहेंगे, which I think you would be smart enough to pick and choose. All right? God bless you. Have fun.